Hello and welcome to the 7th edition of our Investment Insight series, Magellan Minutes. I'm Amy Krasanovic, the Head of ESG at Magellan, and today I'm joined by Emma Henderson from our franchises team who covers the restaurant sector. Welcome, Emma.
Thanks, Amy.
So Emma, Magellan has been invested in restaurants for over 15 years and our current investments include McDonald's, Yum Brands, which some may recognise the brands as KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and one of our more recent investments, Chipotle. And as part of our overall quality assessment of these companies, it includes an assessment of environmental and social risks and opportunities that are material to the companies and how that changes over time. So Emma, we know some consumers have been increasingly focused on healthy eating. I just wanted to talk to you today about how this fits into our investment considerations, and could you talk about the risk to the quick service restaurants and what you look for to determine if they're managing this risk well?
So changing consumer preferences in areas like health and wellness is an important social risk and investment consideration for our restaurant holdings. It impacts how we think about brand and brand relevance and the sustainability of these companies' revenue and earning streams over the long term. The key risk to a restaurant company of not adapting to changing customer tastes and expectations is really around the loss of customer sales and visits, which can then manifest itself in financial results through slowing or declining customer traffic, market share losses to competitors, and ultimately lower sales and profits. This specific consumer trend towards healthier eating, however, is something that we have been monitoring for a long period of time. It might surprise you that next year will mark 20 years since the release of the infamous documentary Super Size Me that you might remember focused on McDonald's. Since that time, we have been monitoring as consumer awareness and interest in areas like nutrition, ingredients, and portion sizes has risen. But what we've also seen is the large quick service restaurant chains adapt in multiple ways, including through menu changes, reformulating ingredients, and offering consumers more balanced choices. You also asked how do we monitor if these trends are having an impact on the companies we invest in. We are closely monitoring metrics like customer traffic trends and brand engagement scores, including across different generations and demographic groups. And we also keep a close eye on the menu changes and product innovation announcements coming out of the companies themselves. So today, even despite decades of this growing consumer interest in nutrition, what we see is that these large quick service restaurant brands still have very loyal and broad-based customer followings around the world. What they've done is they've maintained strong engagement with that core customer group that continues to seek them out for the more indulgent core menu items that they're famous for. But they've also made sufficient changes in evolving their business to stay relevant with the parts of their customer cohorts for whom an increasing focus on nutrition and having more choice has been an important consideration in where they choose to eat.
So maybe coming back to our portfolio and the companies we're invested in specifically, what progress have you seen from them with regards to nutrition and healthy eating? And could they be doing more?
Sure. Look, let me say up front, there is still room for improvement when it comes to the work that the companies like McDonald's and Yum Brands are doing in this space, but we have seen some positive change across a few key areas. Firstly, today, restaurants are a lot more transparent around the nutritional content of their food, and you can see this through calorie information now being displayed a lot more visibly across menu boards, mobile apps, and ordering kiosks. And just displaying this information is a first step in allowing consumers to make more informed choices. The second area I mentioned earlier was about offering consumers more choice and catering to a wider range of lifestyle and dietary needs. Earlier on, this might have included adding salads or healthier wraps to the menu, but this continues to evolve. So today can include offering plant-based options in markets where there is sufficient demand, and also moving with consumers with various trends, for example, the growing interest in zero sugar or lower calorie beverages. For McDonald's in particular, I think it's worth mentioning that for them, a really high priority area has been improving the nutritional content and healthy options available in their children's Happy Meal that many people know. Around the world, we've seen them try to offer parents more choice when it comes to a Happy Meal. So on the beverage side, you can now select water or milk. And on the sides, you now have the option to choose from fruit, vegetable, and low-fat yogurt. At the same time, they've also been working to reformulate existing ingredients so that they can try and bring down the salt, sugar, calorie, and saturated fat content of the core ingredients over time. This is something we refer to as ingredient reformulation, and it's something we're also seeing being rolled out across adult menus. Yum Brands, for example, has a goal to remove artificial colourings, flavourings, and certain types of fatty oils from its core ingredients by 2025, and they're progressing with that over time. The final area I mention on nutrition and food quality has been the progress we've seen in removing the presence of antibiotics in the meat that these restaurants serve. Across the industry, chicken has been the protein where we've seen the most progress to date. McDonald's has eliminated the use of those types of antibiotics that are important to human medicine from their chicken in the US and Europe. And they're targeting to achieve that in other regions by 2027. And we see Yum Brands progressing towards a similar goal. In other proteins, however, like beef and pork, there's still room for improvement. And that's been a focus for us in our recent meetings with the company. And we've highlighted, for McDonald's that this should be a priority area given their scale and influence in the beef industry. And just more broadly from a Magellan perspective, we're speaking to our portfolio companies multiple times a year on these nutrition and food quality issues. We're reviewing their targets and progress reporting in detail, and we're trying to use our cross-sector investments to encourage best practice where we can.
Yes, I'm really interested to hear maybe some examples of best practice that you have seen across the industry. Maybe if you could share with us an example there.
Sure. This might be a good time to mention Chipotle Mexican Grill, which, as you mentioned, is our newer investment in the restaurant space. So Chipotle plays at a slightly higher price point than fast food, but from its inception, it's had a very strong focus on sustainably sourced ingredients that are fresh from artificial colorings and flavors and are made fresh in the kitchen at a Chipotle restaurant every morning. We want to recognize they are playing at a slightly different price point at a different scale and with a different strategy than the fast food chains that we also have investments in. But this has been something that's really important to their brand, their customer following, their pricing power, and monitoring what this company does when it comes to supply chain and food quality. We get a lot of really helpful learnings that we can then bring to our discussions with peer companies.
In our meetings that you mentioned, Emma, with McDonald's, Yum Brands and Chipotle, we regularly also talk to them about their labour force and environmental impact. Could you provide some context on why, like nutrition and food quality, these issues can have real financial impacts if not managed correctly?
Sure. And maybe let me start with labour. So these restaurant companies are all very large employers, either directly or indirectly. How you treat your staff that work in your restaurant is really important for two things. Firstly, your ability to attract quality labour, and secondly, to retain that labour over time. Having staff in your restaurant that are more experienced in and have strong job satisfaction, in their roles has a real impact on the quality of service and the speed of service that customers experience. We only have to look at COVID to get a picture of the material impact on customer service, as well as the restaurant company's financial results of having to rehire and retrain a large portion of their workforce. And then conversely, when we find companies that have really strong restaurant cultures and strong staff retention, you see it translate into above industry sales volumes, operating margins, and brand perceptions. So it's for these reasons why we think it's important to continue to engage with these companies on areas like employee benefits and creating a positive and inclusive workplace environment. Then on the environmental side, we believe that the restaurants who are managing their energy use, their waste and their packaging, this is important for two reasons. Firstly, it's ensuring that they remain compliant with ever-evolving regulation in the space, but also it's building resiliency into their supply chains. So all of their restaurants around the world can have confidence that they're going to have continuing sufficient supply of agricultural and packaging commodities into the future. Packaging is probably an area that even as everyday consumers, we have seen a lot of progress in this industry. I mentioned the move to paper-based straws, replacing plastic cutlery with renewable fibres, and even Pizza Hut boxes in Australia today are now made from 100% recycled content. Like some of the other areas I mentioned earlier, there is still room for improvement, but we are seeing a lot of cross-industry collaboration and strategic partnerships, and we're seeing the large quick service chains, particularly like Yum Brands and McDonald's, using their scale, influence and investment dollars to really try and drive the industry forward.
Thanks, Emma, for your thoughts today. It's been really interesting. It is good to see that the industry acknowledges these important risks, but we know, as we talked about, there's more work to do. And so that's why a key part of our role as large corporate investors is to meet with these companies and encourage improvements and ensure that they are managing these risks and taking advantages of opportunities. And I know that's where we're going to be focusing on our upcoming meetings. Thanks for joining us today. And if you have any questions, please reach out to the Magellan distribution team or feel free to share with your clients and colleagues.